Today's headlines: Venezuelan electoral chief rejects vote tampering claims as baseless. Syrians evacuate Lebanese border camps for rebel-held territory. Rwandan presidential candidates hold final election rallies. Russian Prime Minister says the new U.S. sanctions show Trump administration's total weakness. Mexico names chief negotiator for NAFTA talks and is set to host the second round. United States Vice President Mike Pence pledges support to European allies and warns Russia. Plus, the Iglesia ni Cristo in the United States kicks off celebrations for 50 years in the West. Hello everyone, I am Eliza Gonzalez Manlikmot, bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Venezuela's electoral chief on Wednesday rejected allegations that Caracas has inflated the turnout figures for its Constituent Assembly election by at least 1 million votes, criticizing the London firm's alleged evidence as baseless. Electronic voting technology firm Smartmatic, which created the voting system used by Venezuela since 2004, said the turnout figures had been tampered with. But the head of Venezuela's national electoral body, Tibisay Lucena, said the allegations were baseless, adding that the figures in question were managed exclusively by the Venezuelan government and not the auditing firm. Lucena was recently put on a list of sanctioned individuals by the U.S. for undermining democracy in the OPEC nation. She told media that the tampering allegations are part of an aggression against Venezuela.
These statements from the auditing firm were issued in the context of the aggression that was initiated 2 weeks ago against the Venezuela electoral body, otherwise known as the sanction by the U.S. government to me personally as presidential of the electoral body.
The accusations came hours after Reuters exclusively reported that only 3.7 million people had voted by 5:30 p.m. in Sunday's poll, according to internal elections data, compared with 8.1 million people authorities said had voted that day. Venezuela's Electoral Council extended voting to 7 p.m., but election experts said doubling the vote in the last hour and a half would be without precedent. Buses carrying Syrian militants and refugees left Flita, coming from Arsal in Lebanon and heading to Idlib in Syria, under a deal made after Shiite Hezbollah routed Sunni Islamist Nusra Front insurgents in their last foothold at the frontier. Hezbollah-run media outlets said some 7,000 Syrians, including 1,000 militants, their families and refugees, are to leave the Lebanese town of Arsal and the surrounding border area and head for Syria's northwestern Idlib province under the deal. Hezbollah's Al-Manar television said that 113 buses had begun leaving Arsal town, headed for Flita on the Syrian side. The transfer echoes deals struck within Syria in which Damascus has shuttled rebels and civilians to Idlib and other opposition areas. Such evacuations have helped President Bashar al-Assad recapture several rebel bastions over the past year and are criticized by the opposition as amounting to the forced transfer of populations seen as sympathetic to the opposition. Presidential hopefuls in the Rwandan elections held their final campaigns in the country's capital of Kigali on Wednesday. Incumbent Paul Kagame and one of his main rivals, Frank Habineza, took to the stage in a last-minute effort to try to convince voters before Friday's election. Kagame, who is running for a third term, has been president since 2000, but has been effectively in control since his rebel force marched into Kigali in 1994 to end a genocide.
Those who talk about us think they know us, but they actually don't. I've said it before. Those who think they can decide for Rwanda or tell us what we should do, or those who think that they can tell Kagame what he can do or can't do, that is when I will exactly do the opposite of what they are telling me to do.
expect to win this election now because we have seen a lot of support from the people. We are going to win this election very big by 65%.
Despite being poor in resources, Rwanda is becoming increasingly popular in Africa for donors and investors, and Kagame has been feted as a visionary leader and an African icon. However, activists say development has come at the expense of civil liberties and media freedom. Some of his political opponents have been killed after they fled abroad in cases that remain unsolved. The government denies any involvement. When we come back, Russian Prime Minister says new U.S. sanctions show Trump administration's total weakness. Mexico names chief negotiator for NAFTA talks and is set to host the second round. United States Vice President Mike Pence pledges support to European allies and warns Russia. Plus, Iglesia ni Cristo in the United States kicks off celebrations for 50 years in the West. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return in a moment. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. U.S. President Donald Trump signed into law new sanctions against Russia on Wednesday, a move Moscow said amounted to a full-scale trade war and an end to hopes for better ties with the Trump administration. Congress overwhelmingly approved the legislation last week, passing a measure conflicting with the Republican president's desire to improve relations with Moscow. Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev wrote in a Facebook post and on Twitter that the Trump administration had demonstrated total weakness. The new law allows Congress to stop any effort by Trump to ease sanctions on Russia. As he introduced the team that will represent Mexico with the United States and Canada, Mexican Economy Minister Ildefonso Guajardo told reporters on Wednesday Mexico will host the second round of talks to renegotiate the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, around September 10. Kenneth Smith, a veteran Mexican trade policy expert who currently serves as director of the NAFTA office at the Mexican Embassy in Washington, will be Mexico's chief negotiator for the high-stakes talks set to begin next month.
They'll begin in Washington, continue in Mexico, and go on to Canada. They'll continue in Washington. We will be successive hosts of the rounds. The location of each country will be decided by that host. In this case, the first one will be in Washington. The first one in Mexico will be in Mexico City, but we don't discard that we could hold these rounds of talks in different places in each country.
The first round of trade talks between the United States, Mexico, and Canada on NAFTA will begin on August 16 in Washington. The 23-year-old free trade pact has helped quadruple trade to over $1 trillion between the three countries in 2015. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence on Wednesday accused Russia of working to destabilize the Western Balkans and split the region from the West, where he said its future lies. Pence said the U.S. rejects violence or intimidation in the region.
And I can assure you, the United States of America rejects any attempt to use force, threats, or intimidation in this region or beyond.
We truly believe the future of the Western Balkans is in the West, and we look forward to reaffirming the commitment of the United States to build the relationships that will strengthen the ties between the European community, the Western Balkans, and the United States of America.
Vice President Pence spoke in Montenegro, which joined NATO this year, in defiance of Russia, on the final leg of a tour designed to reassure Eastern Europe of Washington's commitment to its security, despite doubts sowed by President Donald Trump's lukewarm support for the Western military alliance. Montenegro, a former Yugoslav republic with a population of 680,000 and an army of 2,000, became NATO's 29th member in June, 8 months after Podgorica accused Russian spies of orchestrating an attempted coup to derail the accession. Moscow dismissed the accusations as anti-Russian hysteria and warned of retaliation against Montenegro's hostile course. The West says Russia is increasingly engaged in the former Yugoslavia, particularly among fellow Orthodox Christians in Serbia, Montenegro, Macedonia, and Bosnia. Serbia is the largest of the states to emerge from the ashes of socialist federal Yugoslavia in the 1990s, has become a focus of Russian attention as Belgrade pursues an increasingly difficult balancing act between European Union membership aspirations and a popular affinity for Russia. Russia strongly opposed NATO accession for Montenegro, whose deep-water Adriatic ports can support naval operations in the Mediterranean. The Iglesia Ni Cristo in the United States kicks off celebrations for 50 years in the West. That's next. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return in a moment. Welcome back. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. In Hawaii, the Iglesia Ni Cristo kicks off its celebrations for the church's 50 years in the United States. Joji Carnade with the story.
Band Together, the countdown to the 50th begins, is the latest event for the Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ in Hawaii, and Blaisdell Arena would become the largest venue ever used by the church in this part of the world. Church member Francis Kaholi is also an experienced security officer, but even for him, the experience of providing order and security in a very large venue felt overwhelming but rewarding.
This venue is the largest venue that we have rented for any kind of occasion that we're making, that we would be having a worldwide kind of viewing for the whole world to see and to view the brethren in the far west, especially in Hawaii.
Church members invited their friends and family members to this free event to experience the celebration as well as to know more about this global church. Some dignitaries also attended, including a state senator who took the time to update Eagle News on the latest developments in various projects throughout Hawaii.
This nice gentleman, Manny Salas, invited me. He's pastors out at Waipahu, and that's my district.
On a sunny Sunday afternoon, church members from all major islands of Hawaii arrived in Oahu to experience this grand occasion, which consisted of mostly live musical and literary presentations composed by church members. Musical numbers ranged from a drum solo from the Big Island to a full band complete with backup singers from the island of Maui. There was also some inspirational poetry, color guard presentation, and some tender moments like this piano rendition by one of the church officials. Youth members also took part in the action with a number of their own. Wives and daughters of church ministers meanwhile paid tribute to Brother Felix Y. Manalo, whom they believe was God's last messenger who became instrumental in registering the church in the Philippines. And there was another tribute for Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, the church's current executive minister, by means of a more modern style of singing. The concert also served as a platform for the premiere of the church's TV program Taga Rito Kami, which roughly translates to "We Are From Here." This episode featured the island of Oahu, along with all of the church congregations there. Officers and members described this occasion as the official kick-off for the worldwide countdown towards the 50th anniversary of the church outside of the Philippines, and they are already looking forward to work with other congregations outside Hawaii to prepare for even bigger event in July 2018.
So every locale has been gearing up for the anniversary, which is next year, and this is the start of it.
The Iglesia Ni Cristo Church of Christ began its overseas mission in Hawaii on July 27, 1968, when the executive minister back then, Brother Eranio G. Manalo, presided over the very first worship service outside the Philippines in a sugar plantation town called Eva Beach. Since then, this global church has reached more than 130 countries and territories across 6 continents. Reporting from Honolulu, Hawaii, this is Joji Carnate for Eagle News. I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Joji. Stay tuned to Eagle News for more on this anniversary celebration. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us again next week as we bring news that matters to you. Visit our website at Eaglenews.PH and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. I am Eliza Gonzalez, Manglik Mod, always 1 with 25. Happy weekend.